Senate. We welcome you, sir. We also recognize Right Honorable Babangida, former Deputy Speaker, House of Representatives, Lois Auta, MDWD, Mr. Jake Ekwele, Tough Africa. We'd like to welcome all of you, members of civil society organizations that are here. Moving on very quickly, it is then pertinent at this juncture to ask that everyone please be seated, relax, and as we take the inaugural lecture, we're moving on very quickly. The inaugural lecture is very important for us to please put pens to paper as we sit down and listen to this inaugural lecture. And this inaugural lecture is going to be delivered by someone who also acted as the lead consultant at the last constitutional review in the life of the last Senate, and House of Representatives, and of course the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He's also the former Commissioner for Justice and Attorney General of Plateau State, and he's here with us in flesh and blood. I'd like that we please welcome him to the podium, Professor Dakas, C.J. Dakas, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, for the inaugural lecture. Can we please have that round of applause as loud as can be for Professor Dakas, C.J. Dakas, SAN. Prof, please do not block the thoroughfare so he can find his way here very easily. Professor Dakas, C.J. Dakas, SAN.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm very delighted to be here this afternoon and to have the honor and privilege of addressing a very important subject. The topic that I have been asked to address is resolving Nigeria's constitution question. Resolving Nigeria's constitution question. The topic itself presupposes that the question mark hangs over the Nigerian constitution. And what then is that question mark? This invariably arises from the preamble to the Nigerian constitution, which states that the constitution was made by we, the people. And for those who are familiar with the context in which the 1999 Constitution emerged, the question that invariably arises is whether there is a legitimacy deficit that we confront. There's a great deal of debate about that, and I won't have, unfortunately, the privilege of the time to address that question. But I think what is critical is that, as the Nigerian Constitution rightly points out in section 14, subsection 2a, sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom government, through the Constitution, derives all its authority and power. And if the Nigerian Constitution is made by we, the people, then it becomes imperative that the Nigerian people are front and center, that the Nigerian people are at the heart of Nigeria's constitutional experience. And it also means that in the context of this constitutional amendment exercise, we are conscious of that imperative. In his remarks this morning, the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives and Chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Constitutional Review made a very fundamental clarion call to what he calls bold and decisive action. And it invariably follows that in the context of the exercise that is unfolding, all the mandate bearers must be bold and decisive. So in terms of the question of legitimacy of the Constitution, clearly the reality is that there is a recurring debate about the legitimacy of the Nigerian Constitution, and this has generated contentions, contestations, and clarion calls for amendments. There are those who have argued, for instance, that members of the National Assembly are not competent to make fundamental alterations to the Constitution or to make fundamental changes to its fundamental structures and fundamental principles. There's a great deal of debate about that, and part of the reason why that question arises is that quite apart from the context in which the Constitution emerged, there is also the fact that the Nigerian Constitution in Section 9 does not address the question of a referendum. This is something that perhaps over the course of time you might need to engage in the context of constitutional amendment. I would like to focus on results, and therefore I'd like to engage the experiences that we have had, especially since 2010, when, as Clement Wanko pointed out, we had the very first alteration exercise. And I've had the privilege of being part of this process at certain points in time, and I'd like to focus on some of the experiences over the course of time. Of course, we're familiar that from 2010 we have had alterations from numbers 1 to the last exercise, which was number 5 alteration. And my expectation is that we will now have a 6th alteration that will be very profound in its outcome. So what are some of the lessons? Because I like to focus on results. What are some of the lessons that we need to learn from the previous exercises so that we have optimal performance? And the very first is the fact that you must be strategic in planning and commence early. And I'm very happy that the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives has indicated that you have given yourselves a timeline of 24 months. This is very critical for 3 major reasons. The first is that there might be a number of amendments that have implications for the conduct of the 2027 elections. And the sooner you are over and done with that aspect of the amendment, the easier it is for the Independent National Electoral Commission to better prepare for the 2027 elections. The second reason is that if you don't get over and done with this in good time, the more it drags to the 2027 elections, the more the likelihood that the honorable members and the senators will be looking at every item through a political lens. And the third is that if you drag this to the 2027 elections, the likelihood is that electioneering campaigns now become the order of the day, and you won't have the attention and focus that you need in order to constructively engage the constitutional amendment exercise. The second, drawing from my experience in previous exercises, and I'm glad again that the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives has underscored this fact, is that you need to build consensus. Nigeria is a very diverse country, and it is extremely critical that we build consensus. And as a matter of fact, if you need to amend the Constitution, there are some aspects of the Constitution that require a threshold of 2/3, but there are some of them that require a threshold of 4/5. And so if you don't build consensus in a spirit of give and take, then it will be very difficult for us to achieve our goals. The third lesson is that you must be prepared to walk across party lines. This National Assembly is probably the most diverse in terms of the representation of different political parties. And you must be prepared to walk across party lines, and in doing so, you must focus on the national interest. And focusing on the national interest means that you must be deliberate in avoiding political grandstanding and brinkmanship. I would urge all of you to be driven by the courage of your conviction and in the overarching interest of the Nigerian state. And when it comes to the subject of courage, I often reference the statement attributed to a former senator of the United States, Senator John McCain. And John McCain says that courage is not the absence of fear, but the capacity for action in spite of our fears. Over the course of this exercise, you may be called upon to take bold and decisive action that requires courage and the courage of your convictions. The fourth point is the imperative of stakeholder engagement. And I'm very delighted that part of what we're going to be doing today is citizenship engagement. And engagement is very critical because the people are at the heart of the exercise. And therefore the exercise must be people-centered. You must feel the pulse of the people, and you must give expression to the interest of the people. In this respect, working with your counterparts in the Senate, it will become very critical to engage with civil society, to engage with traditional rulers, some of whom are here, to engage with religious leaders, to engage with the media, to engage with political parties and other critical stakeholders in the Nigerian project. I'd like to also say, and this is lesson number 5, strategy is key. Because without strategy, this becomes really an exercise that is not focused. And one of the things that we learned in the course of previous exercises is that you might find that there are a number of bills in respect of which there is consensus, and yet there are others that are very contentious. And what we have learned in previous exercises is that where you have reached consensus in respect of some key issues, you should have separate standalone bills in respect of those issues. Because if you lump them with the very contentious issues, the likelihood is that you pass it in the House of Representatives and you get stuck in the Senate and vice versa, or you pass it in the National Assembly and by the time you get to the state, you are confronted with challenges there, or you are able to get this passed all through these processes, and yet you find that there is a challenge at the level of presidential accents. The 6th lesson is that there must be synergy between the two chambers of the National Assembly. As you would recall, in the course of one of the earlier constitutional amendment exercises, there was a joint National Assembly committee on the review of the Constitution. And there were questions about who would chair the session. The Senate said, well, we will chair the session. The House of Representatives said we would chair the session. And at the end of the day, it took a long time before this was resolved, and we now had co-chairs of the committee. And so it is important that there is synergy, because in the context of constitutional amendment, both chambers of the National Assembly have co-equal powers, and it is important that you work in a symbiotic manner to achieve your goals. Lesson number 7, and this is extremely critical, is that you must have strategic engagement with your colleagues at the state assemblies. As you know, members of the state houses of assembly have a role to play in this respect. And in the last exercise, we had a major challenge. And I think that that challenge was unprecedented. After members of the National Assembly were over and done with the exercise, and I recall, as a lead consultant to the House of Representatives Committee on Constitutional Review, that speakers of state houses of assembly were invited for an interactive session with the National Assembly committees. But then it turned out that by the time the National Assembly was over and done with its exercise, and the bills were transmitted to state houses of assembly, something unprecedented happened. The Conference of Speakers, and I'm glad that the chairman of the Conference of Speakers of State Houses of Assembly is here. The Conference of Speakers now wrote back to the National Assembly and said they were not going to take any further legislative action in respect of the bills transmitted to them for concurrence unless their own priority bills were passed by the National Assembly. And as you would recall, those of you who followed that development, there was quite a bit of challenge between the National Assembly. I recall that the Deputy Senate President and the Deputy Speaker of the House of the 9th Assembly addressed the press conference. And so we had a back and forth that unfortunately impeded the action that was needed in respect of that exercise. And so I'm glad that very early in the day, and as the Speaker of the Oyo State House of Assembly, who is the Chairman of the Conference of Speakers, has rightly indicated, it is a very welcome development that very early in the day you're already engaging the state houses of assembly. And my hope is that you will have synergy in terms of your actions going forward. The 8th lesson is that you must have periodic consultation and partnership with the executive. At the state level, on paper, there is no specific role for state governors. But we all know that governors wield considerable influence over what happens in respect of this exercise at the state level. And therefore, you must find some way of feeling the pulse of the executive. And at the federal level, of course, the reality is that you may go through the entire gamut of exercise, and by the time it gets to the president, you find that there is veto. You will recall that in the 9th Assembly, as many as 36 bills for constitutional amendment were passed at the National Assembly and at the level of the state assemblies. These went to Mr. President, and if my recollection is correct, only 16 of them were assented to by Mr. President. And the current president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, then assented to one other one that has to do with the judiciary in terms of the uniform retirement age. So, feeling the pulse of the executive over the course of the exercise is critical. Number 9, you must be deliberate in countering the narrative that these exercises are simply annual rituals and money-spinning jamborees. As a matter of fact, as recently as yesterday, when I told one of my colleagues that I was going to be addressing this gathering today, one of the things you must emphasize is that there is a general perception, rightly or wrongly, that these are just follow exercises. Now, how do you engage that? For those of us that have been part of this process, we know that that is not correct. But it means that you must be deliberate in a robust media engagement to get the people to appreciate the relevance of this exercise. But one of the most significant ways through which you can counter that narrative is to deliver results. If you deliver results in a manner that is profound, and as the Deputy Speaker pointed out, if you are bold and decisive, then of course you will be able to demonstrate to the Nigerian people that this exercise is worth it. The 10th point is, and I think this also comes out of the speech made by the Deputy Speaker, is the need for impact assessment. I give you an example. In the 9th Assembly, one of the signature accomplishments was the devolution of powers in respect of correctional services, in respect of rails, in respect of power, and yet, almost a year afterwards, we are not seeing significant effort to domesticate these initiatives at the state level. And you need, at the level of this committee, and at the level of the National Assembly in total, to take stock, undertake an impact assessment, so that it provides you a compass for action going forward. And you need to constructively engage with the sub-nationals, so that you are able to collaborate with them in order to ensure that the work that you have done is given effect to at the sub-national level. The 11th lesson, and the last on this, is that you must set your eyes on the crowning glory. At the end of this exercise, you must be able to say to yourself, what is the crowning glory? In other words, what is the signature accomplishment of this exercise? I give you a few examples. In respect of the 8th Assembly, the signature accomplishment of that assembly in respect of constitutional amendment was in relation to the not too young to run amendment. Now, whether that has translated into greater representation of younger people in the National Assembly is a different question. In respect of the 9th Assembly, I believe that the signature accomplishments were the devolution of powers in respect of power, rail, correctional services, as I pointed out, but also the financial independence of state legislatures and state judiciaries. And I think that these are very critical, and we need to keep this in mind. So, as I wind down, for the 10th Assembly, at the end of this exercise, what will be your signature accomplishment that inspires confidence in the Nigerian people? Is it going to be in the area of devolution, of power, of policing power? And I know, for instance, that the Deputy Speaker and some other members of the National Assembly have sponsored a bill on the subject of devolution of policing. Is that going to be your signature accomplishment? I'm aware that in the 9th Assembly, this was almost passed. But I recall that when we had the joint meeting of the House of Representatives Committee and the Senate Committee, there was apprehension on the part of members of the National Assembly that there was a likelihood of abuse of the state police by the state governors. And that apprehension truncated this exercise at the National Assembly level. Now here we are, and it turns out that one of the counter demands of the speakers of the state houses of assembly was actually in relation to the devolution of policing powers. And we need to find a way of addressing this. If you are able to address this with the profundity that is required, it may well be one of your signature accomplishments. The other issue is the gender mainstreaming bills. I recall that there were at least 3 significant bills that had to do with the question of gender, and Clem Nwanko underscored this in his remarks. This is something I would urge you to take a second look at, and it may well be one of your signature accomplishments. Or is it going to be the subject of the administrative and financial independence of the local governments? You will recall that this was passed, and then it was quite a challenge at the level of the states. So, focus on the bigger picture. What is the crowning glory, and what will be your signature accomplishments? If I had the luxury of time, I would reel out some other issues that I believe you need to engage, but I don't have that privilege. But let me make a general appeal to Nigerians. Nigerians need to get involved in this exercise and be deeply invested in the vitality of our democratic institutions. As I close, I want to challenge all of you, members of the National Assembly, to rise to the occasion. I go back to what the Deputy Speaker said in his remarks, which was a call to bold and decisive action. You have been tasked with the responsibility of resolving the Constitution question. This is a mandate that the Constitution reposes in you and other mandate bearers. And the question I'm going to leave you with, are you willing and determined to write your names in gold in the annals of Nigeria's constitutional history? I thank you for your kind attention.
Indeed, when you hear a man that knows his onions, it shows, doesn't it? You have been listening to a man who was former Attorney General, Commissioner of Justice, Plateau State, who is the Inauguration Committee lecturer for today, Professor Dakas, C.J. Dakas, and he has delivered the goods within the time that he has been given. He has spoken about how if he had more time, he would have delivered more to us. Consensus building, robust media engagement. What would be your impact when the time comes? Cerebral, analytical, bringing with that Nigerianness, which is shared brilliance, the one we know, not the ones that we hear about, the fact that Nigerians are just some of the most brilliant people. Please, let's hear a round of applause for Professor Daka C.J. Dakas. I'd like at this point to salute our esteemed traditional rulers who are still here with us. We thank you, sirs, for being here with us. Civil society organizations, faith-based organizations who have stayed with us, and our virtual audience. Please be mindful of the citizens' engagement. The citizens' engagement is very key to the entire Constitutional Review Committee. Stakeholders' engagement is important, and this particular citizens' engagement, I made to understand by the chairman of the committee, the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, is the first step of the committee's work, and they are looking forward to robust intervention. It is at this time that I would like to invite to speak to us at this event the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas.
the President of the Senate, ably represented by the Deputy Senate President, my brother, Senator Barote, my brother, the Deputy Speaker, Honorable Benjamin Kalu, who is incidentally the chairman of this Constitutional Review Committee, the principal officers of NAS, both Senate and House, the executive governors present here, distinguished senators and members of the National Assembly present here, the chairman, APC, ably represented by the secretary of the party, chairman and members of the Conference of Speakers of the State Legislatures of Nigeria, present here, former presiding officers of the House of Reps, I could see my colleagues from this side, former presiding, the STF, ably represented by Mr. Ibrahim Oyedeji Nureini, who is the Director of Legal Services, the members of the Federal Executive Council present here, the Inspector General of Police, the Chairman Police Service Commission, the Chairman and members and management of the National Assembly Service Commission, the CNA and management of the National Assembly, members of the Diplomatic Corps, our highly respected traditional rulers present here, development and technical partners, distinguished invited guests, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Today marks another significant moment in our democratic journey towards a more perfect union. The inauguration of the House Committee on the Review of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, is not just a ritual, but a reflection of our collective resolve to ensure that the foundational documents of our democracy evolve to meet the aspiration of all Nigerians. Our population in 1999 was about 120 million. However, by 2023, we have exceeded 220 million. These rapid changes underscore the need to continuously transform the Constitution into a living and transformative document. I'm delighted to welcome the Senate President and our invited guests and development partners who have come to witness this very important national assignment. Since our inauguration on the 30th June 2023, the House expressed its commitments to continuous law reform. Specifically, our legislative agenda identified streamlining and improving the constitutional reform process as a cardinal objective. In this regard, the House is already working on a constitutional alteration procedure bill to provide a framework and timeline for the passage of constitution alteration bills by the National Assembly and adoption by state houses of assembly. The early commencement of constitution review activities by the 10th House is yet another step towards actualizing our agenda. The composition of the committee is representative, comprising one member from each of the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT. It is chaired by the Deputy Speaker, Right Honorable Benjamin Kalu, while the House Leader, Honorable Professor Julius Rovery, is the committee's Deputy Chairman. To ensure greater inclusion, the committee will also have 6 additional women, female representatives, women of the House, who each one of them will represent a geopolitical zone, and all other female members will be co-opted on advisory basis to deepen their inclusion. Similarly, the House Zonal Caucus leaders have also been co-opted in an advisory capacity to advise the committee on issues related to their respective zones. Lastly, the committee secretariat would also include a representative of people living with disabilities to ensure that their concerns are properly accommodated. The mandate of the committee is to receive and consider proposals for alteration of the 1999 Constitution, create a forum for stakeholders and the public to make inputs into the review process and collaborate with the Senate and the state houses of assembly as required by law. As we inaugurated CRC, it is essential to acknowledge the glory Nigeria has embarked upon since the return to democracy in 1999. Our country has witnessed significant milestones and challenges alike. Through each phase, our democracy has been tested and still being challenged. Yet, even after 25 years, it stands resilient, reinforced by our collective belief in the principles of freedom, equality, and justice for all. The 1999 Constitution, as the supreme law of the land, has been the ground norm of our democracy for over 2 decades. Yes, like any great edifice, it requires periodic assessment and review to ensure it meets the changing needs and aspirations of our people. While some citizens argue that the document should be entirely discarded, it is important to remember that democratic consolidation can only be incremental and gradual. Even more mature democracies have accepted this position in advancing democratic consolidations. For instance, the United States has ratified more than 27 amendments to its constitution. Since the inception of the Fourth Republic, the Constitution has been subjected to 5 alterations, with landmark changes that have strengthened our democratic institutions, federalism and governance generally. The first and second alterations provided for the financial independence of the National Assembly, an independent National Electoral Commission, and granted the Supreme Court jurisdiction on appeals from the Court of Appeal on the election of governors and their deputies. The third and fourth alterations, among others, established the National Industrial Court under the Constitution as a superior court of record and provided for the funding of the houses of assemblies of states directly from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the states. Under the 9th Assembly, the 5th alteration made some of the most far-reaching amendments. It clarified and reinforced financial autonomy for states, houses of assembly, and judiciary. Decongested the executive list, defined guidelines for the first session, and inauguration of members-elect of the national and state houses of assembly, and deleted reference to the provisions of the Criminal Code, Penal Code, Criminal Procedure Act, Criminal Procedure Code, or Evidence Act, among others. All this made the 5th alteration the most extensive since 1999. Right honorable colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, we expect the 6th alteration under this 10th National Assembly to be the most comprehensive yet. As such, the task before the Constitutional Review Committee is profound. The House agenda is ambitious in its scope and encompasses wide-ranging issues pivotal to our national growth. Among these, the devolution of powers, including state policing, enhancement of fiscal federalism through local government autonomy, further decongesting the exclusive legislative list, recognizing and assigning constitutional roles for traditional institutions, and promoting inclusivity, particularly greater gender equity and women representation into appointed and elected positions. Regarding the latter, I implore this committee to align its work with the legislative agenda. I urge you to revisit the issue of additional or reserved seats for women across legislative bodies. Training in joint tickets and conferring citizenship on foreigners married to Nigerian women. Other critical areas for consideration include implementing comprehensive electoral reforms to address the gaps identified in the aftermath of the 2023 general elections, strengthening the enforceability of legislative instruments, and institutional strengthening for greater accountability, among others. These areas are crucial for reinforcing our democracy and ensuring that the governance structure meets the needs and aspirations of all Nigerians. Several bills have already been introduced in both the Senate and the House, touching on some of these very important issues. I encourage members of the committee and all Nigerians not to shy away from the complexities and the debates that will arise during this process. Instead, let us embrace them as vital components of a vibrant democracy. These discussions and disagreements are not signs of weakness, but rather indications of our strength and diversity. They remind us that we are a nation of many voices, each with something valuable to contribute to our collective future. However, in making recommendations and proposals that potentially have far-reaching impacts, such as state police, I strongly recommend that we adopt a scientific approach grounded in empirical evidence rather than ideology, personal beliefs, or political expediency. I also challenge us to go beyond traditional and generic prescriptions and explore gradualism in lawmaking with the understanding that social change can be achieved in small, discrete increments rather than in approach strokes or grand solutions. This gradual process will allow us to pilot innovative solutions, engage in meaningful experimentation, and gather concrete data and facts to inform our decisions. Also, this approach ensures that reforms are not only reflective, but also adapted to the unique needs and challenges of our great nation. Through this careful and considered process, we can achieve sustainable and impactful changes for the good of our country and all Nigerians. The methodology to be adopted by this Constitutional Review Committee will emphasize inclusivity, transparency, and collaboration. From the onset, we shall work closely with the executive arm, both at the federal and subnational levels. This partnership stems from recognizing their pivotal role in governance, ensuring that our review process is comprehensive and considers the practical aspects of implementation. Equally, the process will involve states out of assembly to foster consensus and expedite adoption by states. But more importantly, the process will be deeply rooted in engaging with the Nigerian people at all levels, including traditional and religious institutions, pressure groups and trade unions, ethno-religious organizations, the diaspora community, and much more. Your insights, experiences, and aspirations will be the cornerstone of this review. we intend to harness the inputs of all Nigerians at all levels, at all levels and at the level of all our local governments through open forum interactions, public consultations, and digital platforms, ensuring that every voice is heard and considered. As we embark on the essential task of constitutional review, the House has adopted a strategy of timely commencement. This proactive approach is designed to ensure, through engagement and deliberation, by starting early, we aim to facilitate comprehensive review process, allowing ample time for robust public engagements, detailed analysis, and thoughtful consideration of proposals for amendments. This approach also ensures that the review is concluded in good time and avoids some of the setbacks experienced in the past, occasioned by late commencements. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, while the constitutional amendment process is both costly and laden with contentious issues, the benefits far outweigh the challenges. It is an opportunity to address the pressing issues that have emerged in our polity, to close gaps in our legal systems, and to strengthen the foundation of our democracy. As such, I urge all members of the Committee on Constitutional Review, and indeed all Nigerians, to approach this exercise with an open mind, a spirit of patriotism, and a commitment to the greater good. Our goal should not be to win arguments, but to build consensus, to not just amend laws, but to forge a more unified, just and prosperous Nigeria. I commend everyone involved in this endeavor, especially my deputy, Right Honorable Benjamin Okezi-Kanu, House Leader Professor Julius Reverie, and all members of this committee, the Secretariat, and all our partners. May your deliberations be guided by wisdom, fairness, and a deep duty to our country. Together, we can achieve a constitution that not only addresses our current challenges, but also anticipates the future needs of our great nation. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, I will request all members of the review committee to please rise for the inauguration. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and pleasure to formally inaugurate the Committee on Constitutional Review of the 10th House of Representatives for the service of our nation. Thank you very much as we pray that God may continue to bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Another resounding applause for the Speaker, House of Representatives, the Right Honorable Abbas Tajuddin, PhD. We appreciate you. He has gone ahead to inaugurate the House of Representatives Committee on Constitutional Review, this 10th Assembly of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I'd like to inform you first of all that the next will be the opportunity for Nigerians and Nigerians in the diaspora to lend their voice to what is happening here. And that is a segment, for me, the most critical segment and the most crucial one, and is all-inclusive. That is the citizens' engagement that will happen next. That's the next segment. As soon as the speaker gets to his set, we will please be glad to get the citizens' engagement started. Exchanging pleasantries with the custodians of our culture and traditions. And we have DIG Frank Mba, who has come in here to hold forth for the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Ekpetokun, who has to go back to the office for some very official reasons. Please be seated. I have just informed all of us that citizens' engagement is the next segment, and it is very important that you please stay with us so that your voice can be heard in the course of this. That is the most important aspect of this program. Please do stay with us. But just before that, I have the pleasure of inviting the former Special Advisor on Political Affairs to President Olusegun Obasanjo, a prolific writer himself, Right Honorable Professor Julius Inaugural, who also deputizes the Deputy Speaker as the Deputy Chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Constitution Review. I'd like you to please join me in welcoming Honorable Professor Julius Inaugural, OON, for his vote of thanks. It is after the vote of thanks that the citizens' engagement will commence. Professor Inaugural.
Thank you so much. I am not going to take a lot of your time. The Right Honorable Speaker has laid out a very holistic protocol, and I do not intend to repeat it, but to say a big thank you to all members of the National Assembly, to our traditional rulers, our religious leaders, our development partners, my colleagues and colleagues in civil society, to appreciate you for being here. But this is just the beginning. We hope you will stay with us as we go through the process. And believe me, this committee believes that the best constitutions so far in Africa are those that are transparent, inclusive, participatory, process-driven, and people-driven. And that is exactly what we intend to do. So once again, on behalf of the Right Speaker, Honorable Speaker, and the Deputy Senate President, who serves probably as the Senate President here, we thank you very much, and we pray that Almighty God will lead you to your respective destinations. But for those who do not have emergencies to attend to, the next segment, we will find it even more interesting and more captivating. So we plead with you, if you don't have to leave, hang around, and let's begin the process of the Constitution review. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Julius Inaugural, OON. It is at this point, can we please set the stage very quickly for the citizens' engagement? We have a few of you that will be invited here as panelists, and of course, I'd like to start by inviting His Royal Majesty Professor Ochivili, Professor James Ayate, CFR, the Tortille, and Chairman, Benue State Council of Chiefs, to please take a seat on this stage. Can we please welcome His Royal Majesty Professor Ochivili James Ayate, CFR. A warm round of applause for Tortille, please. He's making his way to the stage. I'd also like to invite the President of Nigerian Bar Association, Yakubu Mekio, SAN, to please join us here as well. Please, as I call your name, just honor us with your presence, your esteemed presence on stage, as we also invite Right Honorable Uche Onigwocha to please join us here very quickly. Time is of the essence. Right Honorable Martin Amahule is the Speaker, Rivers State House of Assembly. Please, we want you here. Can we have you, please? We have just the next 35 minutes to round up from here completely. So please carry with us a while we get this done. And this is the opportunity and the segment that citizens of diverse professions would have a say. So please, tarry with us a while. Take your seats. We want your voice to be heard. Nigerians in diaspora representative is also here. Please, your voice can be heard in this segment as well. Let's do this very quickly, and we're going to be moving the podium so we can quickly take the stage. Nigerian Bar Association President. Thank you, sir. We also have Lois Auta, who is going to be representing persons with disability. We need some hands. We'd also like to invite to please join us on this side of the divide His Royal Highness Alhaji Dr. Yahya Abubakar CFR Exulube Bangladesh. Please do join us here. We also have, and he doubles as the Chairman, Niger State Council of Traditional Rulers and Chairman Coordinating Committee, National Council of Traditional Rulers of Nigeria. Can we please welcome His Royal Highness Exulube Alhaji Dr. Yahya Abubakar CFR to join us here, please. Can we please get another seat very quickly? Please, if we have your attention, this, for all of us, is the most important aspect of this program, the citizens' engagement. Many thanks to Black, and many thanks to the UK International Development. I'd like to also inform us that Dr. Kingsman will be speaking from the floor when we eventually get to that point, as well as Jake Ekwele, Tough Africa. Please. We need to help Lois get up to the stage. Lois, if you intend to stay back on the floor, we can be able to pass the microphone to you so we can get your contribution. We actually called Lois Auta of NDWD, who will be speaking on behalf of the... Can we please help us, cameramen? We need to put these podium somewhere down here to the side, please, so that the panelists can be seen and also heard. Can someone assist us real quickly to please bring down or move to the side this podium? I need 2 hands, please. Please, let's do this very quickly. Thank you very much. We need to help bring Lois out here quickly. Honorable members, can we please settle down quickly as we get these very important segments, the People's Engagement segment, started. Please let's be mindful of our movements. Security operatives, can we please take our seats and allow for this dialogue and this engagement to take place. Thank you very much. Please, can we get this segment started? Can we please plead with all of you to take your seats and allow for this dialogue to commence? Operatives, security operatives, can we please allow the Deputy President of the Senate to please take his seat? And the Speaker, you're blocking his view, as well as the Deputy Speaker. Can we all take our seats, please? Please, there'll be time enough for exchange of pleasantries. The representative of the National Chairman of APC, please take your seat as we get these aspects started. There's so much noise going on. Can we have some quiet? To get these conversations going, I'd like to invite, first of all, the President, Nigerian Bar Association, Yakubu Mekio SAN, listening to the lecture and listening to the various speeches on these auspicious occasion of the inauguration of the Constitution Review Committee of the House of Representatives, 10th House of Representatives. What will be your take? What are the areas that you think you want to focus on? Let's get your perspectives, please.
Thank you very much. Let me adopt and not without recognizing the Deputy Senate President, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, of course my brother, Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Benjamin Kanu. I've listened to the previous speakers, and I wasn't here when my brother spoke. I was at the Supreme Court for the swearing in of the 11 justices of the Supreme Court, so I came late. I apologize for coming in late. I've listened to Professor Douglas, that wonderful paper that he delivered. And I like to say that I speak on behalf of the bar, or let me say I speak for the Nigerian people through the platform of the Nigerian Bar Association. And it is important to put in perspective the role of the Nigerian Bar Association to the people when it comes to the issues of law. And when we talk about the issues of law are all encompassing. And so it was the first Nigerian to be called to the English bar, who said that a legal practitioner is primarily called to give direction to his people and to advance the cause of the nation. These are the primary responsibilities of lawyers, and it is in this context, and it is in this, from this perspective that I will speak with respect to the business that we've come to do, which is being started today, that is the constitutional review. Now, from the perspective of the Nigerian Bar Association, we are doing quite a lot in terms of the proposals that we have for constitutional review, and I'm grateful that my brother Kalu has been quite receptive in all the things that we have done so far, and I just want to state that the Nigerian Bar Association will support this process. I mean, we will recommend this process all the resources that the Nigerian Bar Association has, and it does have quite a lot to offer in this respect. Now, we are concentrating on the justice sector mostly. Now, the review of the justice sector will necessarily entail talking about the judiciary. I'm happy with the efforts already made by the 10th National Assembly with respect to the review of the salaries and allowances of the judicial officers in this country. Of course, we are coming also with an additional request with respect to magistrates. The magistrates in the entire country. The magistracy, it is the place, they are the ones that do bulk of the work across the country. If you look at the volume of work undertaken by the magistrates, and yet the Constitution does not consider them as judicial officers. So, even the laudable contribution to the amendments that we see happening to that sector of the country does not reckon with the magistrates. It's something also that would like the constitutional review to consider.
listening to the issue of the police, side by side with the state police that we are talking about. It is important for us to also consider state prisons, because if you have state police, then the responsibility for the prisoners, those who we put in prison for having committed one offense or the other, we have to be focused on what we need to achieve when we put them in prison. Do we put them in prison simply because they are outcast, or we want them reformed? And then who takes responsibility of all of that? I think that is also something that we need to look at. And I'm talking about correctional facilities here. So these are the things that we expect you to consider. But most importantly, I want us to dwell on the issues concerning the matters in Chapter 2 of the Constitution. Vis-a-vis Chapter 4 of the Constitution. Those matters in Chapter 2 that we say should not, that are non-justiciable, that is to say, you cannot question the activity of government, or you cannot hold government accountable with respect to those matters, for instance, security, health, and education, by perhaps going to court and raising a question as to the trust and the confidence that the Nigerian people have entrusted in those that are given the responsibility to lead the people through those constitutional offices. We cannot hold them into account by saying, look, these are the things that have been voted, for instance, in the issue of security. This much money has been given to you to use in order to provide security to the people of the country, to preserve lives and properties of the people of this country. We notice that so much money has been put into it, but as you all know, security situation is getting worse day by day in this country. And how is it that we, the people that have given you the responsibility, the trust to run the affairs of this country, cannot call you to account in that regard? And then so, if we cannot do that, then how is it that Section 4, that guarantees my right to life, will be of any meaning to me? What I mean to say is that if we cannot talk to you about security, and people go around, we have bandits all over the place, so much money has been committed in the area of security, and we are not seeing results, we cannot ask questions in that respect. But I can go to Chapter 4 and claim that I have a right to life, I have a right to dignity, I have the right to my privacy. When bandits can raid my village, take my wife, rape her, I do not have any privacy. Where is my dignity? Where is my right to life? These are issues that we need to reconcile. And I have a suggestion in that there is a legislation that we have, we seem to have jettisoned in the things that we do in regard this particular part of the Constitution. I'm talking about Chapter 2 of the Constitution. You know, when we call the Indian president to speak, that is not less than 6 feet tall. And I say, I have so much to talk about speaking on behalf of Nigerians. So the point I'm making here is that we have a legislation. The National Planning Act has a wonderful provision that provides a mechanism for us to achieve what we have in Chapter 2 of the Constitution. If we can explore that, then we'll be able to give effect and meaning to the provisions of Chapter 4 that guarantees your right to dignity, right to property, right to life, right to privacy, and all of that. But unless we are able to do that, then it makes no meaning at all. If people can come and raid your home, take your life, and you cannot ask a question, only to be told that you have a guaranteed right to life in Chapter 4. Countries like India have done it, and we have seen that courts have now gone into those areas, and we can actually ask questions and hold government accountable with respect to these knotty issues, which of course are the very basis upon which justice will be delivered to the people. And in my letter to the President on the 14th, the President of the Federal Republic on the 14th of February, I did make the point that for both the judiciary, the executive and the legislature, one thing that runs across the duties that they provide to the people is the motivation to do justice to the people. The judiciary must do justice, the executive must do justice. In this legislative work that the legislature is doing, the motivation must be to do justice to the people. And so I said, on a final note, I had forced to speak at the 9th Assembly, the Constitutional Review Committee in the Northwest Zone. And I said that the Constitution as it is today, and I want us to take this very seriously, the Constitution that we have today is a document which, if operated with only 50% honesty and sincerity, will deliver better results to the country. So to a great extent, the problem is not so much about the document. It's about most of us that are given the responsibility to operate the provisions of the Constitution on behalf of the people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Perspectives of the President's Agenda Association. Very quickly, Right Honorable Uche Onyango, we'd like to get your perspective on especially the thematic areas of this review, as outlined by the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives who chairs the committee, as well as the Speaker of the House of Representatives this morning. Can we get your perspectives on that, please?
Thank you very much. All protocols of that. I will start by saying that what Nigerians want is a negotiated constitution. They don't want to be part of the process. Not make it a normal 4-year ritual. This one should be the last in many years to come, in which case you must engage the people. And engaging the people, you must be willing to talk to everybody. The insurgents, the rebels, the secessionists, everybody. Nobody should be excluded. And you must have the patience to listen to them.
Don't take the minorities for granted. And I think it's important that we understand that one place we've been getting it very wrong is with INEC. Leave the Electoral Act as it is. Let's stop pretending that INEC is independent and that the people there are non-partisan. Let every political party contribute their members to INEC so that their members will go there and ensure that there is compliance with the Electoral Act. Don't tell us that Mr. President is violating this thing. Every political party that has members in the National Assembly must have representation in INEC. And it is important that I remind you that the Supreme Court is overworked. And we cannot keep going on appeal on every matter to the Supreme Court. So it's high time we set up regional Supreme Courts in order to curtail the number of cases that go to Supreme Court at the national level. So that all such other cases that don't need to go to them, that of no serious national importance or constitutional importance, will stop at the regional Supreme Court level, so that the Supreme Court can focus on major policy issues that affect the country. But more than any other thing, this country wants restructuring. Whatever you do, and you do not include restructuring, you would have wasted our money, you would have wasted our time. How you do it, I don't know, but I think it is important that you should also realize that there are major fundamental issues we have overlooked over the years, which are also going to move in your constitution. For example, the first major amendment of the constitution was done without the National Assembly. You made no input to it, and the constitution was amended. That was on October 10, 2002, when the International Court of Justice ceded Bakassi Peninsula to the Keros. You have never done anything about this. A distance, an area of almost 800 square kilometers. Got is ceded from Nigeria and added to Keros since 2002. None of the processes of altering, like you prefer to do, and actually the reason you call it altering,
Constitution Amendment Act, so that it will be a framework for you to invite people of different areas from across the country to join you in the process of looking at the Constitution. Do not consider it an erosion of our powers that other people are being invited to share in this process. I believe that if we are going to do this and many other others reason with us, we will go along with creating a constitution that Nigerians can truly call their own, as opposed to this section, this decree number 24 of 1999 by Abu. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Uche Onyeruocha there. I'll come to you very quickly, Speaker, Rivers State House of Assembly, Honorable Martins Amadu. It's been 10 years down the line, we'll talk about the independence and autonomy of state houses of assembly. And each time the National Assembly successfully passes that and becomes law, the state chief executive governors particularly have been against it, and state houses of assembly also toe the line of state executives, governors in particular. What's your take? Are you thinking along the line of ensuring that you have your autonomy? And of course, what other gray areas are there that you think that the State House of Assembly can also look at in the amendment of the Constitution or the review of the Constitution? Honorable Martins.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by saying that the issue you have just raised is one that is of great concern to the speakers, it's of great concern to Nigerians in general. We have three arms of government: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. It's important that separation of powers is truly allowed to play its course for our democracy to really be sustained. Strengthening institutions in this country is key. Undue interferences, either from the executive or from the judiciary, is indeed an anathema, is anachronistic, and shouldn't be allowed to continue. I must say, without any iota of contradiction, that all state houses of assembly will definitely be looking at true independence and autonomy. For us in River State, we have no other alternative. We have already passed our financial autonomy law. It's in place, and we insist that it must be implemented. And we are of the view too that local governments should be allowed to still have their full independence. I must say this because our local governments are the grassroots level, and we need them to be strengthened. A situation where the Constitution has allowed for local governments and state chief executives will not allow elected people to be in office is a thing of worry for us, and I think it should be something that should concern, of course, all Nigerians. I want to appeal to the National Assembly to look into this matter. I believe that only elected people should occupy offices that are local governments. The position of the chairman, councillor, they should be there. The era of caretaker committees should be outlawed by our constitution. It should be written in black and white that someone who has not been elected should not sit in the office of the chairman of a local government. In fact, we can go as far as legislating on how funds can go to this local government, such that when you have people at the helms of affairs of the local government who are not elected, they should not be given allocation. I do not think that allocation should be given to people who are merely appointed as against the provision of our constitution. We need to strengthen the third tier of government. We need to strengthen state legislature. I also want to remark here a situation where our courts do interfere with legislative proceedings. We find a situation where the state legislature is looking at matters within its powers. We have the exclusive list, we have the concurrent list, and the residual list. When the state legislature is legislating on the matter in the concurrent and residual list. While the process is still ongoing, it has not been concluded. There was no matter in court ab initio on that particular matter. You find that someone runs to court and gets an order and stops the state legislature from performing its constitutionalism. This is one thing that we also need to look at. It's a problem for us. And I believe that the independence, the autonomy of state legislature is key. Whatever we need to do to strengthen the state house of assembly, we need to do that. Because when the legislature is strong, when the legislature is not afraid of interferences from either the judiciary or the executive, they will be free to do their job. When the state legislature is weak, the result is bad governance, because there will be nobody there to checkmate the executive. We are the voice of the people, and as legislators, we believe that when we are fully empowered, when all those encumbrances to us exercising our powers as enshrined in the Constitution are removed, when we are protected, fully protected by law, I believe that it will enhance our democracy, and of course it will turn out good laws for our people, and of course help the citizens of our states.
Thank you very much, Martin Zamando, the Speaker, River State House of Assembly. I come to the, first of all, let me start with the top team, which will be Professor James Ayaz, the CFR. There's been this clamor for the traditional rulers to be given a place in the Constitution. And this clamor has come from diverse quarters over the years. That has not been done. We have this yet another privilege of having to go around the discussion around giving traditional rulers their pride of place in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. What's your take? What areas are you also looking at that you want to bring to the fore for the chairman of committee on the review of the Constitution and his deputy members to be able to capture for further discussions and further conversations?
Thank you very much. Let me appreciate the Honorable Speaker and follow due process, protocol because of time. Yes, you recall from history that before independence, traditional rulers had very clear rules in contributing to the development and unity and even security of this country at different levels. And as you know, traditional rulers are the closest to the people in society, and they live among the people. And therefore, they know their challenges, they know their problems, and they are highly respected, and the people have confidence in them. So they have a role in terms of security, in terms of peace, in terms of unity. As an individual traditional ruler, I have been invited several times to give talks, lectures on the role of traditional rulers in security, role of traditional rulers in national unity, role of traditional rulers in different aspects of national life. And it is clear that traditional rulers have a role to play in the development, in keeping peace and unity in this country. However, beginning from the 1999 Constitution, whatever was left over in the Constitution of role of traditional rulers was completely expunged. So traditional rulers are not reflected in the Constitution in terms of their rules at all. So it's clear they have a role to play, but that role has not been reflected in the Constitution. And the time has come that something must be done in this constitutional review. This is another opportunity for traditional rulers to be properly reflected in the Constitution of the country. We have made, as the body, made efforts in the past, made representation in the National Assembly during previous reviews, and nothing was done. We believe that this effort, this is providing yet another opportunity And I appeal to the National Assembly at this time to take a bold step, courageous step to insert in the Constitution the role of traditional rulers. Yes, advisory roles. Yes, roles of mobilization. Yes, roles of supporting government, because we live with the people and we're effective in disseminating the policies and actions of government, and therefore supporting the stability of democracy and the unity of this nation. But more than that, these rules have to be properly reflected in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We do suggest that beside what happens now at the state level, different states government enact, laws to govern the traditional institutions in their own states, but there needs to be a national reflection of the institution by inserting that in the constitution of the country, and that will lead to the possibility of having the traditional institution, the traditional rulers being reflected to be members of the National Council of States that does advisory role, gives advisory roles to government, and the selection can be made of maybe 3 in the political zone to be part there to advise government. At the national level, there also can be a National Council of Traditional Rulers. The president of this nation can be a member and sit with this group of traditional rulers that are many chairmen of councils of different states, and be able to share the challenges and problems of government, and these people can take it down to the grassroots to share, and that will help in understanding policies and challenges of government and mobilizing people to support the government and the different policies and plans of government. And at the state level, we have the same body, and then at the local government level, we have the same body, and that will be useful in helping security challenges that we are facing right now in this country. The traditional rulers are very close to the people. They know the criminal elements that live amongst them, and if they are given a role and empowered, that can very effectively address the security situation of this country. Working together with the established apparatus, will be able to effectively contribute even to national security. So I believe they have a role, and once there is legislation to, insert them in the Constitution and give specific rules, they will be more effective in performing these functions. And I need to use also this opportunity to lend a voice to state police. We believe that the level of security challenges we are having now, to have somebody centrally commanding in Abuja over the entire diverse country may not be effective. So we believe that state governors should be given the instrument for establishment of state police, and as traditional rulers living in the communities, the state police will be more effective in policing, the police working with the traditional rulers in community policing. That will be effective in dealing with criminality and be able to meet all these security challenges at the bars. And therefore, I support that. And lastly, I want to lend my voice to restructuring. Whatever meaning is taken, it is important that what this country, the way it is now, needs to be restructured to make it more effective and to make it more, to meet the needs of the people. Restructuring is important. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Royal Majesty, Professor James Ayat, CFO. We move on quickly. I was actually listening with rapt attention to also get your take on the arbitrary removal of traditional rulers by state governments. That I did not hear. I don't know if that becomes a thing of concern to the traditional institution in Nigeria. I'd like to quickly throw this to the ex-Olympic, His Royal Highness Alhaji Dr. Yahya Bokar, CFR, to please shed some light on your thoughts on these aspects of the arbitrary removal of traditional rulers, even when it is a heritage thing. What's your take, the ex-Olympic?
Thank you.
And you have just 5 minutes if you don't mind, just like every other person.
Thank you very much, the MC, and I just want to say distinguished audience, especially Your Excellencies, the Deputy Senate President, and Your Excellency, Honorable Speaker, and also the Deputy Speaker, and all the members of this committee. I just want to thank you immensely for this occasion and the invitation to be here physically, and also to appreciate and commend the authorities by establishing this committee headed by the Honorable Benjamin Kalu to carry out this very, very significant exercise of reviewing our Constitution 1999. My colleague, the team has already given the significance and importance of the role our institution is also supposed to play from time to time. And we observe that right from the previous constitutions, this constitution has been well recognized and carried along in the governance of this country up to 1979 constitution. However, the 1999 constitution accidentally, either deliberately or otherwise, exposed the duties of the roles of the constitution and remove it back to the serious schedule, which actually is still I just came back from cold region. I traveled to US and I came back a few days ago. So, please ask me. We discovered that the 1999 Constitution actually exposed our duties related to residual schedule, which didn't give us any legal instrument to operate. However, by tradition, by nature, that God has ordained us to be with our people, the institution is still running side by side with our people and authorities. We attend to so many cases, so many crises, and we observe in the history, only at the 11th hour, when things are very bad, then the people will come out and start calling for traditional institution. Come on, help us, come on, do that. We don't want that aspect to continue like that. We want to have legal instrument in our constitution that will give us the opportunity to exercise certain authority in issues like local issues, domestic issues. From time to time, even without our being included or being given those powers in the constitution, we still attempt to all sort of crisis coming out from our people. We still listen to them. And what the MCs wanted me to talk about that sudden removal or withdrawal of traditional rulers without any cause to whatever. Things are happening so bad. We, in the institution, we have a history, we have culture, we have customs, and we have even the way and manners a traditional ruler can be enthroned. There are what we call kingmakers, either 5, 7, 9, 11, or now. These kingmakers, they even sit and deliberate on who can be their king next day after the demise of the existing king. So these kingmakers, they are deep in the history, they know who's who in the community, so they sit down and deliberate. Some even consult their oracles to see who is the best candidate out of those contestants. So we believe when any traditional ruler commits any offense, you should go through that process again, the process of electing your enthroning the president, and dethroning him should also go through the same process. Whatever he has done should be passed to these kingmakers. And for there and then, the kingmaker can recommend to the authority that be either state government or federal government. And we please come with me if this is done, because certain removal are highly political and biased, which is not supposed to be. And then it degrades the institution to the barest level, which will give us the command and respect for our people. We are just appointed in a national here, and by the fact that it doesn't maybe favor your party or anything, political party is removed. And then, for sure, we will have that total power on our people. You see, okay, you must vote through I don't know. Because we are talking about democracy. Democracy, people should decide who they want to vote for, and not ask to enforce whatever. We discover that in this present-day political exercises, you see governments or authorities fighting anyone who doesn't know that. Why did they support? Why did they allow them to support candidates or whatever? That is very, very bad and very wrong. We appeal to this committee to see that those rules and regulations guiding the enthronement and dethronement of the national is followed to the core. So according to our constitutional tradition, we have the kingmakers are there, they always seek to decide on who to be the king. So if we have to remove this king also, please let us go through the kingmakers and let them decide and recommend the removal or enthronement of any king. Inshallah. So and also, as I said, I pray Almighty God to guide this committee through the exercises. It's a very, very important exercise to improve our country peace. All the suggestions made, like restructuring, like police, military police service, and any other suggestion made. Let's look at them critically. Observe the fears, like the state police. The fears are that if you allow the government to establish state police, they will comedian bad relations. Okay, so what? Because we believe for any challenge you have, or for any progress you have, you ask yourself, so what? If you do so what, you're going to get a solution to whatever crisis you are so much afraid of. So we believe that if state police is being established, because then our security threats we are having here and there, we go a long way to understanding the people and also policing our people very, very closely. And we believe the international institution will come very, very handy in this aspect of state police.
Thank you very much, Your Royal Highness, Timothy. Thank you for your thoughts. I fear in many quarters about state policing has been the aspect that there will be the regular and the supervision of the chief executive of states, and that would also mean that they will use that against their political opponents or political enemies, so to speak. But of course, let's move on to people living with disability. In the speech of the Deputy Speaker, as well as the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the aspect of inclusivity was mentioned. And of course, there's also discrimination on the ground of challenges of people living with disability. You also talked about inclusivity, and of course, what areas do you think that the Constitution of the Federal Government of Nigeria would, as planning on amendment, should be able to carry you along? What aspects?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Please permit me to sit on already established protocol. My name is Lois Alta, and I'm representing persons with disabilities. According to United Nations terminology, we are addressed as persons with disabilities, not persons living with disabilities. That being said, I was happy when the speaker mentioned persons with disabilities are going to be part of the constitutional amendment. That is inclusion. But I wonder how it will be done when we don't have a lawmaker with disability in the National Assembly. Do we have? Persons with disabilities have been excluded for too long. In the social inclusion model, we have 4 of them: exclusion, segregation, integration, and inclusion. As it is, Nigeria is still operating on the integration level. When are we going to be included? I ran for office twice, but I lost the votes. Losing the votes will never stop me from protesting. I will run until I win. Now, persons with disabilities have a Nigerian Disability Act. 5% is enshrined as a right. How are we giving persons with disabilities this 5% reservation of rights when it comes to health, education, access, and many other things? When I was coming, I had to be carried because this podium is inaccessible to me. This is part of the inclusion conversation we're talking about. It is time that Nigeria begin to think of moving from exclusion to inclusion, from inclusion to participation, and from participation to representation. Doing that will include everybody. I'm talking on behalf of women and persons with disabilities. I was expecting to see more women on the panel, and we are not here. I'm not happy about this. Women have rights. They have the voice. Let's amplify their voices. I ran in 2019 here in the FCT, and I was told, you are not a citizen of the FCT. Why are you here? Go back to Kaduna and run. In 2022, I went back to Kaduna and ran. And I was told, you are married to Akwa Ibom. What are you doing here? So you see the issue of citizenship and indigenship, which women have been advocating from the 9th Assembly. 10th Assembly, how are we going to give women their rights? Women has economic value. They can contribute to Nigeria's GDP in many ways, in positive ways, including persons with disabilities. Let's begin to include us, include women, include persons with disabilities, because we have the talent, we have the potentials, we have the capacity and the resilience to do it. If you don't know, I am able. I'm the first woman with disability from Africa named a young global leader of the World Economic Forum. The first woman with disability that ran with 4,080 candidates in 2019. I was at the polls, but I was not given my rights. I was not voted. But that won't stop me. I will never relent. I will never. So this constitutional review, please include us. Include women, include persons with disabilities. Doing that will give us our rights as citizens of this country. And as you all know, women's disabilities are triple jeopardized. First as a woman, secondly as a woman with disability, lastly the barriers that we face. Infrastructural barrier, which I was carrying here, institutional barrier, our legal frameworks, women issues are not captured. And the last one, attitudinal barrier. We need to change our attitude. We need character reform to be able to carry everybody in everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lois Alta, standing in for people living with disability. Don't quit. Quitters don't win. Winners don't quit. So I'd like to encourage you. Please would like to get a perspective of some of us from the audience. Very quickly, I'd like to invite Jake Ekwele. If you don't mind, get the microphone, one of the roving microphones to him so we can get his take on this. Jake Ekwele is the CEO and founder of TAF Africa. Jake Ekwele, please, if you're still here. Just 1 minute, if you don't mind. Can we get a microphone to him very quickly? Okay, there's one coming from. Oh, you have 2 mics, but of course, Lois, ladies to that track. Thank you.
Thank you. Your Excellencies, let me maximize my 1 minute because just speaking, I've lost 5 seconds. Lois, thank you for being the true voice of disability. And thank you, I stand with you that women, not just women with disability, but every woman must be given a chance. With that said, let me stick to the issue, the subject matter today, which is the Constitution. If you take a cursory look at the Constitution, there are minor mention of persons with disability issues. In all of the sections, I don't need an IQ of a mortuary to know that. I don't need to be a lawyer to know that. But I've taken my time and look at the entire document. It is a document that is highly exclusive and exclusion of persons with disability, as though we don't exist. And so, for every section of that Constitution, let there be an obvious mention of persons with disability. Take, for instance, when you talk about the rights of persons, you talk about creed, you talk about religion, and all that. Not one mention of persons with disability. Don't we have a right? You don't need to answer me, I'll answer. We do. And of course, there are specific issues that deal with us, especially the language that is being used. I'm not an albino. I'm a person with albinism. And by the way, I am not asking God for anything other than who I am. I love my albinism.
Thank you.
With that said, we will work with the committee. I am thankful to the Speaker for showing himself truly an inclusive speaker. And we will work with the committee. And boys, we don't need to ask for inclusion. You've already been included. So we must be included in the process, and we will, Lois and I and others, we will give the committee a concrete position paper that will outline all of our issues, and hopefully it will be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, let's restrict ourselves to the 1 minute and keep protocols as much as you can because of time. I'd like to invite the representative of Nigerians in diaspora, Kingsman. Please come, let's get your thoughts on the proposed review of the Constitution. You can speak from the floor there. Can we get the microphone to him? Why is the mic, please? Okay, I'd rather give you mine. Let's quickly do this with some dispatch.
Thank you. The Honorable Speaker, protocol existed. My name is Dr. Kingsman, the Nigerians in Diaspora Organization. I'm happy for this wonderful moment of reviewing Africa, everybody is agitated. But this agitation is also extended to Nigerians in the diaspora, where I'm coming from. See, from the beginning of today's event, a lot of speakers have come on podium to speak, and nobody mentioned of this strong citizens living outside our shore in every aspect. I would like us to use this opportunity to annex what we have on the diaspora. We know it. It shouldn't be only when we need funding, it shouldn't be only when we need assistance from people in the hospital, sending money for remittance, paying house rents, that will call people in the diaspora. We have about more than 20 million of us living here. Even the deputy speaker is one of us. And a lot of us are here, and chairs of committees. So please, let us carry ourselves along, because our members here are not happy the way we are being excluded in every aspect of things, except in fund repatriation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. At this point, Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker, sir, Your Excellency, the Deputy Senate President and the Chairman of the committee, we would like to crave your indulgence to see if there's one woman to add to Lois who has a comment to make, 1 minute comment. So we have one woman who would make a comment, 1 minute, don't fall my hand.
Well, very quickly. Yes, Julia, the panelists here are of the opinion that we take 2 women and 1 dog. Please, very specifically.
And therefore, I'm going to speak to 1 woman.
I
apologize to the panel, but I'm a woman and I would love 5 women if you ask me, but we're going to give it to only 1 woman at this point.
All right, thank you.
Right.
That works. Please go off the line, introduce yourself and perhaps the institution you represent, and let's go ahead. 1 minute.
I beg to stand on the existing protocol.
Put the mic close to you so we can hear you.
Yeah. What is happening today is really a welcome idea. But what I want us to be doing, I want to be fast about it. What I want us to be doing is that anytime we have programs like this, we should include, at least we have like 5 men. We should include like 3 women, so that we will feel that we are being carried along. We feel neglected, and that is why we are having problems. Some of us can contribute immensely to the progress and development of this country. We are not here to come and sit and watch people talking. Like the arrangement was not really the best, because the lady even pointed out when she came up and said we should be included. We are pleading to our leaders that they should please think about us and give us opportunities. Not all of us that is bad or we don't know what we're supposed to do. We have the interest, because we talk to our children, we are more closer to the children, to the youths. And whatever we imbibe in them, it will be what will be brought out. Because you start from the home. Mothers are very, very essential in the setup of the family. I want to appeal again that the people living with disability, both the men and women, should be recognized too, so that they will be part and parcel. See what she has said. It's very, very meaningful, and everybody knows that she knows what she is here for. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Andy, it's a wrap.
Dr. Mariam Bello Yasin, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. It's a wrap. Time to close.
Thank you very much. And I think we are closing by having to thank members of the panel. We'd like to thank the President of Nigerian Bar Association, Yakubu Mekyo, SAN. These are 1 round of applause for him. We also thank Right Honorable Uche Bonye-Brocha. We'd like to thank you. And we also must thank the Speaker, River State House of Assembly, Martin Amagude. We'd like to thank you. Your Royal Majesty, the Toti, and Your Royal Highness, the Executive, as well as Louise Auta, and of course all of you that contributed from the floor. Thank you very much indeed, and this brings us to the close of these very panel of discussion. We'll just stand quickly and have a group photograph, and then we'll bring this to a close. Once you may just wish to go forward and join us for the photograph. As we bring this to a close, it will be, we'd like to invite the representative of the President of the Senate. We also like to invite the Speaker, House of Representatives, and the Deputy Speaker, House of Representatives, to please join us for this photograph, as well as the Deputy Chairman of the Committee, the House of Representatives of the Review of the Constitution. The Deputy Majority Whip of the Senate should also run the House of Reps. Please join us. Yes. Please let's have this photograph. Minority Leader is joining us quickly. Minority Leader, House of Reps, Honorable Chinga. Rivers. We thank you very much for take the national anthem from here, just as we bring this to a close. The national anthem from the police band. Queen of the Tear, Virginia Abu. I am Andy Gabriel, wishing you a very pleasant day ahead of you. And we also want to appreciate the presence of Engineer Suleiman and Damisa. We'd like to welcome you. We also, former Minister of Sports, we welcome Mr. Engineer Damisa. We also recognize Ambassador Jerry Ibokwe, former Member House of Representatives. We appreciate you. And thank you so much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Go back home. And if you want to make contributions, the email has been given. You may wish to send your thoughts to the House of Representatives Committee on the review of the Constitution under the leadership of Deputy Speaker, Right Honorable Benjamin Okezekano.